Hello there, this is Joshua Lisec of LisecGhostwriting.com. I am pleased to announce my guest today is John Sterling, author of Sales for Noobs, the incredible sales development book for those young in their careers. John has had an illustrious career in technology and sales and the intersection of both of them. We worked together 6 years ago now. His book has been out for 5 years, and he sent me an email. I'm going to read you some excerpts of the email that John sent me on basically what has been changed in his life and his work and his career as a result of becoming a published author. But let's start with the man himself. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. And by the way, it was unsolicited too. Unsolicited. Just some good things were happening. I felt like updating Joshua, and here we are.
That's great. Yes. Now, real quick, what is your primary business now? What's it called, and what do you do in it?
So sterlingsales.co is the website, and we do coaching, consulting for tech businesses in the Southeast. That's our primary market. My background is building a tech company here in South Carolina, believe it or not, from 0 to 100 million as the sales leader, and we ended up with close to 100 salespeople. So I got a lot of experience recruiting and training and doing comp plans for people in the Southeast doing tech. So if you're one of those kind of companies, that's kind of where I fit in. And when I found Joshua, it was my lucky day. But I had he laughs about it, but I think it was 15 years worth of notes on this book I was going to write one day, and that one day came when I met Joshua. So here
That's
we
right.
are.
Did we meet through Scott Adams? I think we were both Scott Adams followers about that time. Does that sound about right?
It was early because you were on early. I remember because it wasn't even it was like the original format, whatever that was called.
Periscope. Yeah.
Periscope, yeah, Periscope. And you were on there as a young ghostwriter, and I really was impressed with you. And it just started in my mind that, I could solve this book problem in one note. I could just call Joshua, and I'll bet you we would have ourselves a book. And that's exactly what happened. And my question to you was, as a young ghostwriter, how did you manage to get interviewed on Scott's show?
Yes, so about that time, my son had been born for about a year. He kind of had his first birthday, and I've long said, I like how the interview is now changed, and that's you with me. I've long said that a male becomes a man when he becomes a father.
Okay.
I think you've experienced that transformative experience yourself. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so my worldview changed because I realized, wait a minute, it's not just all about me anymore and kind of libertarian, laissez-faire, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
We live in a society. And the world in which my child, my progeny, my offspring are growing up into, there's a lot of stuff going on that I don't like. I don't want him
Yeah.
to have to deal with this. And there's a saying, I don't recall who it is. Perhaps it's Thomas Jefferson, or maybe it's Gandalf the Grey. Okay, but the paraphrase of perhaps both of them is something like, I don't we want to deal with the issues of our time in our time so that our children don't have to. We're all better off if we do that. And
Yeah.
so my worldview altered, and Scott Adams was very much a part of that. And I was what you might call a sufferer of Trump derangement syndrome up
Yeah.
until that time. My son was born. I've been questioning my own reality and the reality that my news bubble had created. Scott
Yeah.
Adams was one of those people who, frankly, brought me out of that and unbrainwashed me, and that's why he had me on the show. He mentioned I was a ghostwriter. He became familiar with my work while interviewing me and the days after, and then
Interesting.
recommended me. And there were like 80 sales calls. People were banging down my door almost literally.
Yeah.
And you were one of them following that recommendation from Scott
Yeah.
Adams back in
Absolutely.
2019.
Well, it was great, and honestly, they say I'm a sales expert, but I learned a lot about sales from you in that, I wanted a book, but of course there was some work involved on my part and some money involved and some time, and I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to do it. And you were so patient with me. We would meet every week, and you would answer questions, and you'd say, "Are you ready to go forward?" And I'm like, "Not yet." And I have some more questions. You said, "No problem. We'll do it again next week." And so I think we went like 7 weeks or something like that, me asking questions. And finally, I'm like, I don't have any more questions. I have no choice but to go forward. And
Yeah, I
that's,
do remember that, and I think so much of it was about creating a literary work that people would actually want to read versus let's throw a
Right,
bunch of words in a book, give it a cover,
right,
publish it through your own imprint, and then it's out there. But like, is it actually going to do the things? And so I think since that time, I've created a lot of like frequently asked question material, and I authored my own book, So Good They Call You a Fake, where I pre-hand a lot of these, let's say, concerns or objections to alleviate these fears. Uh, and it was your email a couple of days ago that came in. Is it okay if I read a few excerpts of
sure,
it, John?
sure. Go ahead. Yeah,
Yes. So these are from the basically the seven conversations that we had leading up to officially beginning the book, and we titled it "Sales for Noobs" because the idea is that your one of your great experiences, John, one of your successes that you now teach other people to do is to recruit salespeople who have never done this before. They're not natural salespeople, but you
right,
can train that talent. You can even, in some ways, train the personality of a salesperson into a non-salesperson, hence the noobs concept. And with a
right,
value proposition like that, you know exactly what the book is about. It's not, sales enterprise development 101 and
right,
chief revenue officer, and it's just sales for noobs. Oh,
right,
this is for the newbies on our team, or this is for me who is getting into sales and I have no idea what I'm doing. It's not my personality, and then
right.
you can have that be trained into them. So let's see, John. You said our noobs book did exactly what you promised, made me an expert, especially in my region. He said lots of gigs and coaching, and I was like, "Oh, really? Wow. Let's go further. Let's elaborate a bit." And you said then that this is you. I did a local launch as you suggested, and that got me noticed by the community as an author and expert on sales. And this is where the ongoing value of being an author, post like launch, post publication, post whatnot. I mail it with a note to targeted accounts and often bring to meetings with new people. And then you mentioned it's gotten you subscription clients who pay you. I mentioned $6,000 a month, talking, you coaching, meeting with them on a weekly basis. You mentioned you do coaching on Fridays and the rest of your week to operate your other businesses, and you have quite a few. You kind of mentioned that you're maybe Richard Branson on a micro scale here. It's not Earl Nightingale levels of success, but delivering solid value for my business and helping countless folks with your ideas. This is just incredible content. I saw you
Yeah.
send this, and I said we got to talk about all of this. So there's a lot here. The book has become a lead generator for your business, effectively, right?
It really has. I mean, not to say that there's not other examples of people who read it and like, oh, you really helped me, or we did this and that because of the book. So it satisfies that part of my brain. But in terms of dollars and cents, yeah, people call up, and of course, at that when they call me after reading the book, they're certainly pre-qualified. They're asking me if I have time
Yeah.
to help them, and it's completely different than if I was out knocking on doors. So yeah, it's been great.
So you send it ahead to people that you want, like you send a copy of it. Can you walk me through that process of going from sending it to a business person, a business owner, like a future client, and then you get the meeting and becoming a client? What is the actual process of using leveraging your authorship to get new deals?
Yeah. Um, Well, I know who the business owners are in this region of tech companies that are, of the size we're looking for. We're kind of beyond the startup. The startup's kind of tough for me because there's no salespeople to train, you know. And if they're, over 20 people, they probably already got training covered. So kind of that gap of, 4 or 5 salespeople to 20 is the sweet spot for us. So we find those people, we send them the book with we sign it, put a little note in there, send it to them. Let me know if I can help you with anything. And if they come back, we have a meeting, and I ask them eventually the all important question of tell me where your sales situation is today versus where you'd like it to be in the future. And if there's a nice gap there, which there always is, then I just ask them, would you like me to share with you how I might be able to fix that? Or close that gap, and they're like, yeah, propose something. And so it really is not a complicated sale at all, and probably because they never say, well, let's see 10 other projects you've done, or let me see your resume, or whatever. The book kind of pre-qualifies me in as an expert who can solve their problem. It's just a question of whether or not they're going to pull the trigger.
Gotcha. So, do you sense that the people you're sending your book to, are they actually reading any of it, or are they kind of glancing at the cover, skimming the back cover copy? Oh, this looks interesting. Here's the note. Let's give this guy a call back, and then
Yeah.
it goes from being outbound marketing to inbound marketing. Like, are they actually reading any of the book?
Right. So I think there's three levels of people who get the book. You know, there's my mother's friends who's they're this wonderful because they tell my mother that, gosh, your son has this book. It's wonderful. It's a great book. You know, of course they've never read it. And then there's the business owners who get it and don't really read it and just kind of think, well, okay, let's hire this John guy. He wrote a book. Let's see what he can do. And then there's the people who read it. And the people who read it become the good customers because they buy into what we're doing. You know, we're all about recruiting. You're creating the perfect avatar for what you're looking for. And then, you know, setting up a perfect, really good comp plan for these people that aligns with the company, that's simple, and then a regular weekly training program to make them better and better and better. So those are, you know, we'll call that the Papa Bear, you know. The bear in the middle, the Mama Bear, you know, they are what they're doing is they're saying, let's just hire a training guy and see if he can make our salespeople better. We're not going to read the book, just hire the guy. And they don't do all the stuff I want. And those are the challenging clients. You know, I can't make them better if they won't change the people. So, you know, there's three levels of people. The ones that read it, which is most of my clients, they get it and they become the good customers.
Interesting. So it seems like, and this is one of the pitches I gave to you amongst those first seven conversations. And I do, in fact, follow my own advice here. I pointed out that so good they call you a fake is, in
Yeah,
effect, pre-handling all objections to the sale and questions, comments, concerns, fears, doubts, and anxieties that people have about authoring a book, about creating information products based on their expertise, about documenting their expertise in the first place in a way
right.
that people can absorb it, consume it, and then purchase it, and then be upsold ultimately all the way to hiring done for you services, kind of like it is that you do. But the value of having a book that pre-handles the objections is that people actually read it so that their
Right.
objections, concerns can be pre-handled, which means the book has to be attractive. It has to be enjoyable to be read. It can't be AI slop, let's say. You know,
Right.
it's so good they call you a fake. It's not just about being so good. It's about being called a fake. Not just a fake, you know, and nowadays you sound like AI like everybody else does, right? And there's a smattering of books that entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business people are releasing, you know,
Yeah.
nowadays using AI, and it shows. But
Yeah.
like the second category that you mentioned, that market doesn't really care. Oh wow, this person's got a book. That's a good title,
Yeah.
good cover. They flip through it. Okay, they know what they're
Yeah.
talking about. Let's call them up, right? There's not value beyond the veneer. There
Right.
is certainly a value to the veneer for 20 bucks a month with your Chat GPT subscription or Grok or whatever
Yeah.
you're paying for. You said that your people who actually read the book seem to be the best customers. Is
Hmm.
it because, I guess, because you've inculcated them with your ideas, you've influenced them, you've led them to see things the way that you are seeing
Yeah.
them? Is
Yes.
that right?
Most of the technology owners are technologists, right? They're engineers to some degree or to most degree. And so their understanding of sales might just be make the salespeople better, make them make more calls, you know, make them. And if you have the wrong people and the comp plans, you know, not working in line with the company, then no amount of training is going to do much good. And so when they read the book and they're smart people and they're like, oh, I see. We must start with the best athletes in order to have the best basketball team. We can't just have a good coach, right? So, so I think that's the difference because they're all very smart, and when they read the book, they kind of get that we want to have, you know, find the great people first. And one other thing about finding the great people, Joshua, um, is you know if we're good enough to recruit and know what we're looking for and find a junior or senior in college and target them as someone we want on our team for the next 10 or 15 years, we can get them for a beginner's comp plan, you know, 50K and 50K bonus, you know, maybe that's their initial thing coming out of college. But if they're real winners and you try to go get them from some other company 5 years from now, they're too expensive. So they're gone for good. You really have one chance to find the super winners in college and put them on your team for the long run, and that's while they're still there. And so most people don't understand that, but that's one of the things I teach them to do, to build a sales machine that lasts a long time.
That makes sense. And so the value of the book is kind of like a career plan, I think. And as we writing it, I think this might be some of your source of some of your hesitation over those weeks that we were talking is, do you write a book for salespeople, or
Yeah,
do you write a book for those who train the salespeople? And I
yeah,
think we found a way to do both
we
and
did.
address what are the concerns of both those who are managing the salespeople and then those who are the salespeople themselves. And one of the ways we did that was talking about how you will be making the transition from a salesperson to a sales leader and the skill sets that are required in both. So we were
Right.
able to actually cover the gamut of the people reading the book, which are not just the salespeople, but the sales trainer, sales leader, sales director. So that way, this is a book that sales leaders can actually assign to their staff, to the junior salespeople.
Right.
So you mentioned that the book has been helping people with your ideas.
Hmm.
To what extent are you aware that it's actually working for the noobs themselves who are reading the book and up leveling their skills?
Well, I think it's chapter one that we did. It talks about the very first thing you have to do if you want to be a good rep is you have to get control of yourself. You have to be healthy, in good shape. You have to have your mind right, not crazy bad habits, not hanging around the wrong people, because you can be the best natural salesperson in the world and work like crazy, but that stuff will stop you. I've never seen anyone get away with that for long. They get away with it for a year, maybe 2 years, but eventually it screws them up. And so people read that, particularly when they're in college or just out, and they're like, oh my gosh, I kind of see where I was going here. And it's been very helpful. And, in fact, the guy, I can't remember his name now, but the guy who was the chairman of Napster when it came out, called me up in from Boston and said he'd read it somehow and he loved it and he gave it to all of his nephews and nieces and all this stuff. And then I went up there when I was in Boston and met with him, and that was kind of the most bizarre kind of thing out of the blue that's happened in terms of meeting interesting people. But um, I think that's a big part of it. The other part that they read and they do something about is getting the Colby test, KOLBE.com test. So over the years, this it's just another personality profiling type test, but I know what the numbers correlate to in terms of what I've seen with hundreds of other salespeople, and I can tell them this is more of a high-end outside salespeople, better low-end salesperson, better customer type person, and kind of put them in the right spots because you don't want to work against your grain, unless you have to. So that's another place I know people use it to make their lives a little better.
Excellent. So you've also mentioned there was a local launch that you did. So
Yes,
this is something I advise all authors to do. I did this myself with So Good They Call You a Fake, and
yeah,
other books I've done, in-person events. There's something special about getting photographs of you with your book and with your fans that
yeah,
maybe you only sell like 3 copies in person, let's say, and the rest are like giveaways or people who've already bought it,
yeah,
friends, family,
yeah,
colleagues, customers showing up and
yeah.
getting the selfie. But then that becomes months, years of marketing just from one event. Oh, this person's a
Right,
real author. What
right.
what were the local launch activities that you did?
I hired a friend's got a small PR firm. I hired her and gave her a relatively small budget, a couple $1,000 just to hit all the local press, invite a bunch of people to a party, have drinks and snacks and stuff. We had some music, and I got up and said a few words, and they took a bunch of pictures, and then everyone had a good time. So it's very simple and easy to do. But like you said, either you've had a book launch or you hadn't. Doesn't have to be the biggest thing in the world, but it just cemented me again as people's mind. This is a local person who knows how to do this. If we need this help, let's call this person. I did have an experience. I've had a couple of experiences in other parts of the country, and it just seems a little different. I mean, it's harder. I probably have not, for whatever reason, I'm not on the national scale in terms of doing this kind of stuff. I think I could, but I'm probably more comfortable, when people are more likely to know me or know the business that we built here if they're closer in, so it makes it a little easier to sell.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. What are some unexpected opportunities that you've generated or doors that you've opened? You mentioned the chairman of Napster formerly.
Yeah.
What else have you seen that? Wow, maybe I undersold the value of having a book.
There's a couple of things, Jim. My other business is I invest in and buy small privately owned software companies that are similar to the company that I grew the first time. So I've got three so far, and I've got one more that's under contract, so I'll have four soon. So what I'm learning as I'm teaching people, in these, four or five different companies I'm coaching, I'm learning, what's working at certain places. I can apply it to the other companies. I can apply it to my own company. So it's like I've got, between all the companies, let's say 8 looks at revenue engines every week. How can we mix and share and make that happen? And that was not in the plan. That's just an added benefit. The other one is, I'm very open about what I do. I do sales coaching, also by tech companies, and sometimes they kind of cross mingle. Somebody who might want to talk about selling might say, what would this thing be worth if you wanted to buy it, or vice versa. I had one this week that I've been talking to for a while about maybe buying them, and he goes, what we really need? I don't really want to sell. I'd like to hire you to come help us grow the company. So I didn't expect that either. So some real nice cross selling between coaching tech companies and buying tech companies.
That's interesting because it's a universal principle in business that success begets success. The more opportunities you have, the more opportunities you get, and so on and
Right,
so forth. It becomes sort of a virtuous cycle.
right,
Um, it, I believe that there is a tremendous tangible value in documenting the way that you do things, the way that you coach, the way that you train, in sort of a, let's say, worldview driven book, which Sales for Noobs very much is. And so now all salespeople that you are with, that report to you in some capacity or that you're training, there's the manual for them. So you're standardizing the correct way to do things for
right,
everyone in the future and all of these companies because you wrote the book on it.
right, right. That's exactly right. And we did a tiny revision to a few things maybe 2 years ago. So I think over time, as things change, or if I think of new stuff, we can actually add it to this manual. But that's exactly how I feel. And a lot of people now, I mean, it used to be I'd get all these calls from like my friends saying, "Hey, will you talk to little Johnny, try to help him, understand sales?"
Yeah.
And now what I do is I say, "Well, I'll give little Johnny a book, or he can buy one. I don't care, but I don't really want, I don't tell him this, but this is just, I get so many of these requests. I just tell him to do this." And then I also started, Joshua, a free once a month master class on sales that anybody can join. Any kid, any grown up, whatever, all comers can come and we'll talk sales and stuff like that. So it kind of serves two purposes. One is kind of the gathering point for anyone who wants help that's not a client. And then also there's leads come out of it because they work for places and they need help sometimes. So it's a new thing that we've done.
Excellent. There's a number of things have come about, and as I say, promises made, promises kept for what Sales for Noobs has done for you over the last five plus years. John,
Yeah.
anything else you want to add? Maybe potential, let's say, tips or closing advice for an aspiring author who's in a similar position. They have a business or businesses, and in the age of AI, thinking about authoring a book.
Well, I mean, if you're an aspiring author, particularly if you want to to monetize the skill set you have and the experience you have that you want to write about, then getting a book that's in your voice that people will enjoy reading can help you, make some serious money. And it really legitimized, even though I had the same skill set before the book, it legitimized me as someone who was in the business for hire. I can help you do this stuff versus just this guy who worked for this good company. And I would get like a little project here or a little project there. And then I finally honed in with Joshua's help to the monthly service this much a month. We're going to work with your team every week. We had a simple product to sell. And so I would say, if you're thinking about it and you do the math, it usually works out very well in your favor.
That's the best way to say it. And there's one last thing I want to add, which I think about the like running the numbers, the clients that you have gotten from the book that
Yeah.
you used to get the book. Every single month, those clients pay you every month more than you paid for the book itself one time.
Oh my God. What about you, Joshua? This is no good. Stop the tape.
Yes. Hey, so good they call you a fake. People say, "Oh, there's no way. There's no way. You can't
It's
you
true.
can't create that kind of ROI."
True. And
Uh,
it seemed like so much to me. I was like, oh my God. Can't you just write this yourself, John? And I'm like, no, it's been 15 years. I don't think you're going to do it. I don't think you're going to do it. So yeah, I highly recommend Joshua. It was a delight and delightful to get to know him as well.
Thank you, John. We'll go ahead and end it there. And folks, it is sterlingsales.co, .co. You can check out John, and of course, Sales for Noobs is available from Amazon and elsewhere books are sold on the internet. Thank you, John.
Thank you, bud.